Hello everyone, it's Olga from SEO Sly. Welcome to the SEO podcast by SEO Sly. Today I have a very special guest. This is Crystal Carter from Wix. Hi Crystal, how are you doing?
I'm so good. I'm so good. I'm really pleased to be here with you and with the whole crew from SEO Sly. Hello.
Yeah, I'm so excited because I've been following you for I think a long time, and I asked you to come here and you agreed, and I am so super excited about this. And yeah,
I
that's
mean, the
cool.
feelings mutual.
Oh,
Before we started rolling, I was explaining to Olga that she shared a tip years ago, and I was like, "This is amazing," and it saved my life. Well, not in this sort of like dire straits saved my life, but it saved me a lot of time in my life, which is fantastic. So thank you for that.
yeah,
Thank you
you're
for that.
welcome. I'm happy that it helped you. I originally took that tip from, I think, Gary Ish from Google. I
Oh
think he was the
yeah.
one who shared it somewhere and I then replicated it. And the tip is to listen to whatever you're listening or to watch YouTube at a faster pace, like 2 times or 1.5 times. It's like if you listen a lot, if you watch a lot, it will really save you a ton of time. So yeah,
So
that's
much
the
time. I
tip.
wonder if people are going to listen to this podcast really fast, and then we'll send really
Yeah,
fast, and we're going really quick.
yeah, we'll see. So, Crystal, if there is someone who doesn't know you, can you briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, my name is Crystal Carter. I am an SEO, and my job title is the head of SEO communications at Wix. So I sometimes describe it as I spend a lot of time communicating the value of SEO to Wix users, and I also communicate the value of Wix to SEOs. So I sort of go between, and it's a fantastic role. I get to talk to fantastic people like Olga, and then we also get to I get to contribute to our Wix SEO hub, where we have lots of cool blogs from fantastic SEOs, and we do webinars and we do a podcast, and we get to do lots of really interesting things. And I'm also able to get involved with some of the sort of enterprise SEO activities at Wix, which I love to do.
Oh.
And yeah, it's great, and I'm really pleased to be here. And thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and I see from your shirt you are also part of Women in Tech SEO.
This is true. It's one of my favorite T-shirts. I wear it a lot. And Women in Tech SEO is a fantastic organization. If you are someone who identifies as a woman, I highly recommend that you join the crew, as run by Arish. And it's great. It's a nourishing community to be a part of, because it's lots of women just geeking out on SEO
Yeah,
and supporting each other and helping each other learn and grow and do cool stuff.
yeah, and I'm going to have a reach in some time too. So yeah, and I think Women in Tech SEO was the group where for the first time in my life, shared something publicly kind of about SEO. So yeah, I strongly recommend for any woman to join the group if she hasn't done that yet.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I will be definitely asking you more about what you do at Wix, but can you tell me briefly about your history of SEO? When did you start? How it all started for you?
So once upon a time, I was sat at my compact Presario. No.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, way back in the day. So I've been online since like the days of dial-up, since pretty much like AOL, and like way back then.
Uh-huh.
Just poodling about. But I was somebody who was really interested in marketing and lots of things, and basically I was somebody who was always given the website to look after, and given like the social media to look after. And I was sort of doing SEO, and I didn't really know that it was called SEO. I was doing
Uh-huh.
marketing. I was doing and I was always put in charge of the website. And then I started like refining and getting more and more into like the SEO nuts and bolts. So I think I probably got stuck into. I used to do a lot of I had a terrible blog that I used to try to get people to come to back in the days of Google Plus, and I remember trying to get people to come to that, and building websites and different things there. And I've always worked for larger organizations, but I also did some stuff working with smaller groups, or smaller businesses, and then I did a little bit of freelancing. And through all the time I was always doing stuff online. But then I started working for an SEO agency, focusing specifically on SEO and focusing specifically on technical SEO. And I've been just really, really into it and really online all the time, sort of getting into all of that. And yeah, I've also do a lot of speaking and writing and working with different organizations. And I've been really fortunate to work with some great organizations like Moz and Google and Wix and Search Engine Land and things like that. So yeah, it's been really interesting and really varied. And I think I rambled a bit there, but but yeah, it's been quite the journey. And I think one of the things I love about SEO is that almost all of your experiences are valuable. So I've done some stuff where, like, just in my own time, where I've like worked in events, sort of things, sort of, like been involved with events as a volunteer. And then I've had clients who were
Oh,
working in the event industry. And so that was really valuable. And like the
oh,
time that you spend searching online, looking for different things, helping your mom to find something or whatever it may be, sometimes that information also is valuable. So, if you have like I don't know, talking about your mom, like you smiled when I said that. So I'm
yeah,
guessing you
because
help your mom
I
online as
know, I
well.
know the pain. Yeah,
Yeah. And sometimes they can't find things online. And like that's useful to know. Like it's useful to know that that certain people will travel, will navigate the internet differently. Like not
yeah.
everybody's using search operators like we are. Some people, I have my aunt, for instance, doesn't even have the Chrome app on her Android phone. She just uses the Google Discover. Like she uses
Oh,
that to find. I know. I was like,
oh,
how do you find
okay.
anything? So, so she just goes through that one, which and yeah, there's some people who almost entirely use voice search because they've got poor eyesight, and then there's some people who are using Alexa all the time with their kids and things like that. So it's very important to pay attention to what's going on in different spaces. And I find that really, really interesting as an SEO, that you're sort of always got your sort of like, you're always sort of scanning, paying attention to how people are
Yeah.
engaging online and how people are engaging even in real life with sort of digital tools. I remember being at a shop, and they had the price was digital.
Uh-huh.
So I think it was like Best Buy or something in America, and the price was digital. So you could see there was a QR code that was generated, but presumably the price tag would have been like centrally programmed, and they can just change it whenever they want. So they could
Oh,
change the QR code whatever they want as well. And I'd
uh-huh.
not seen that before, but I thought that's really clever. That's really interesting. And
Yeah.
again, I was like, oh well, you could do this and this and this and this and this from a
Oh,
digital marketing
okay.
point of view.
Yeah, so for example, my mom knows that I am like trying to figure out what Google is doing, and she's like using Google all the time, but somehow some time ago, like totally she wasn't even aware that she was using Bing. Somehow she migrated to Bing without knowing that, and I noticed that, oh, you're now using Bing. And so yes, this is kind of like the difference, the difference in
Yeah. Yeah, it's
but
fascinating. And do you know what? I find it Bing really interesting because I don't think Bing's that bad. Like loads of people
no.
talk about Bing, but and those people are like boo Bing, but actually like 9 times out of 10, like I mean, between me and the lamppost and everybody else who's listening to this podcast, like 9 times out of 10, Google's copying Bing's homework, like actually. So you'll see something on Bing, and then
Uh-huh.
like later on, you'll see something very similar on
Oh,
Google. It's like, so I think like some of the stuff that we talk about, like some of the more richer search results, like they're saying, oh, we're adding like all this multimodal search. If you go on Bing, they have all kinds of stuff. Like if you look up like
yeah.
a lion, like what is a lion on Bing, they'll show you like a map of like the whole, like their entire like where they roam, and they'll show you like the lots of things coming from lots of things coming from Wikipedia, and they'll show you lots of sort of things. And then later on, Google added in a lot more of those sorts of elements. So sort of there's accordion drop downs that have more information about
Yeah.
sort of head terms and stuff. So yeah, Bing is interesting. I think it's also interesting to like think widely about those spaces as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I have like a story. It is a very anecdotal story about Bing. So I write those in-depth long tutorials, and usually for those keywords kind of topics entities I target, usually those like the most authoritative sites like rank like Ahrefs, SEMrush. So it's hard to compete with them, even though for some topics I think I have like my guides are more up to date or are more extensive. And in Bing, I am usually like the first place.
Really?
But in Google, like it's like, for example, Google search operators. I have this guide and I totally have beaten this to death. And in Google, it's hard for me to get to page one, but in Bing, like I haven't checked that recently, but at least like some weeks ago, it was like Bing kind of recognizes. It looks like Bing, maybe at least in this case, pays less attention to links authority than
Interesting.
Google. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very interesting, and also, but I think the other thing that's interesting about Bing is that like Bing has their whole they're just desperate for anyone to pay any attention to them at all. And so they're happy to share all of their algorithm stuff. Like they'll
yeah,
share like everything that they're doing. This is exactly how this works. Like please come and find out about multimodal search on Bing, and they'll tell you everything, anything
yeah.
you want to know. And Google can sometimes be a little bit like, well, make good content. Sort of, and they've added more information like recently,
Helpful
but sometimes
content. Yeah,
right, but sometimes they don't they hold their cards a little bit close to their chest, and there's I'm sure there's plenty of reasons why, but yeah, I think Bing will happily tell you all of that sort of stuff. I think yeah, I think it's very 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 interesting. I think also it's one thing around Bing that's great also is their webmaster tools are fantastic.
yeah.
Like
Like you
they're
can call
really
your
good.
site. Yeah, yeah. I
And they'll
love
tell you
them.
like this is broken, this doesn't work. The other thing that's really good is that like they show all of the feeds. So if you have like an e-commerce site, they'll show you every single product feed that's on there. And
Uh huh.
for some websites, like there'll be like multiple feeds, so they'll make a feed for each category or something like that, and you can see if there's a category that has like one one like
Okay.
it's like a feed of one, which like that's a waste of everyone's time. Like that
Yeah.
one shoe needs to come out of that feed.
Okay. Yeah, that's a nice insight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to say, so how many years are you into SEO? Like if I
So I've been working in marketing and SEO, like doing SEO for probably like nearly 15 years. I'm older than I
oh
look. Sometimes I tell people, like people think I'm fairly young, and I say
27? No?
no, I'm not
29?
young. I'm just immature. Well, I'll take that, but I'm not. Well, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking that you are way younger than me, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So 15, 14 years, that's a lot of experience. So yeah, it's very nice. So you can definitely like share a ton of experience, a ton of tips with us. And what's your like specialty? Is it like technical SEO? Because I see you also talk a lot about like SERP features, this kind of stuff. So tell me like
So
what's your thing in SEO?
So the thing I really love is technical SEO. I love getting into that sort of elements, and I also really love like I tend to be fairly business focused. So I do a lot of talks around SEO, and people say, oh, you do a lot of like a lot of different topics. Well, that's because if a client comes to me and says that they want something or that they want help online, I think sometimes people will do what they always do. They're like, oh, I'm really good at this, and so that's what I will give them, and I think that's great. That can be really really useful. But I tend to be very very like solutions led. So if the issue is that the client needs content, then we'll find us something that helps them with content. If the issue is that the client needs technical support, which is almost always the case,
Uh-huh. Okay.
then that's where we focus. And one of the reasons why I really like technical SEO is because it's fairly cut and dry, like whether or not like it works. Like so if somebody's having indexing issues and they've got this part of the site that's not being indexed, but it should be indexed, then you can fix that. That's done. You fix that, and then you move on to the next bit. If you have a situation where their sitemap is ropey, then you can help them with their sitemap. If you have a situation where they don't have schema markup and they should have schema markup and like that sort of thing, then you can add in those things. If they have part of the site that's not rendering and it should be rendered, then you can crawl it, you can test it, again, and then you can move on with those things. So I think the thing I like about technical SEO is that it tends to be less of a like how long is a piece of string. kind of activity than content SEO. And this is not to belittle content SEO at all, because like it's hard. Like I find it really difficult. I know people that are content writers who are like, yeah, I'll just write like 7 articles this week, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, but whereas if somebody says like, oh, can you audit this website? I'm like, yeah, sure. And they can give me like 2 hours, and I can come back with like 17 different points that they should be actioning, and like different things and that sort of stuff. And like that, I find like that I can do really, really quickly. And people, and I can help prioritize it to work with the business objectives like pretty quickly. I find that fairly intuitive, where we say, well, where do we want to go? What are the things that are wrong? What are the things that we should do first? Because I personally like to have a thing to do. So I don't like someone saying, I don't like it when someone says like, oh, this is broken and that's broken. I'm like, like, what do we do about it? Like, if like I could tell somebody that that their car was broken, but I can't fix it. Like, I'm not a mechanic. I can't fix the car. But so the value is to be able to find a way to get them closer to having it fixed. And also to enable them to do that. So one of the things that I think that I tend to be very, very good at with my clients and with my projects and things, like I say, doing a lot of projects with the teams internally as well, is identifying like, when you do an audit, you find any issues, and then you say to them, what does your team look like? They say, it's like, is it you making these updates?
Yeah.
Or is it like a team of people making these updates? Do you have a consultant? Do you have money for a consultant? And if they're like, okay, it's me making the updates, I'm like, okay, then you should do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And if they're like, if I have a consultant,
changes.
Right. If I have a consultant, then it's like, okay, I'm gonna then you need to do then or I have devs or something, and say, okay, we'll give the devs this, and this to do, and then the thing actually gets done. Whereas sometimes I think like I've seen audits and stuff where people get, a reams of lists of things to do, and there's no way they're going to do any of them, and they'll just turn off. They see 50, like a list of 50 or 60 things that they can't possibly conceive of how to fix them, and you've given them no roadmap for how to fix them, then that's just not helpful for anyone. So I think what I've seen success for in the past and is to be able to identify issues, to identify ways to move forward, and to identify those things that are most productive. And they tend to be I tend to go for technical SEO wins, because I know that people say, oh, SEO takes 3 months to see results, but right. But with technical stuff, sometimes it can be like the same week, like the same day, even sometimes, like, for instance, like with like schema stuff, sometimes I've seen we implemented the how-to, then we recrawled the page, we set it up, and then it's like, oh, there it is. It's on the SERP. It's on the SERP now. Like, sometimes that happens. I'm not saying not every time, but sometimes it happens. And you're nodding.
Yeah, I'm nodding because I'm like 100% agreeing with you, because like technical SEO is also my thing. I like it because it is like, I have my own checklist which I update from time to time, and it is like either black or white in many cases. So I really like that, and I totally like that approach as well. Yeah. So maybe you can tell me more about your audit process. Like, tell me how do you approach that? How do you start? What tools do you use?
Yeah, so normally if I'm auditing a site, I'll run it through Screaming Frog, like standard. And so I'll run it through Screaming Frog, and I'll have a look through, and it has, Screaming Frog has like an error report, like you can extract an error report, and I'll sort of like just run it through, and then see what I see, like see what flags, like what's being flagged up quickly. And then I will, and then I'll start going through the things that are being flagged. Some of the things you don't need to pay attention to at all. Like, some of them are not a big deal. And some of them you do. We also, and then also I'll tend to have a look at, some of the structure things. So I'll have a look at the robots.txt. I'll have a look at the sitemaps and make sure that the sitemaps make sense, make sure that they're dynamic, make sure that they exist.
They exist, yeah.
which like on Wix, we have a built-in sitemap that's dynamic and kept up to date and all of that sort of stuff. But on some self-build websites, I've seen it where like there isn't robust
Yeah,
TXT.
seen that too. Yeah.
And it's just sort of, I think it's one of the benefits of like something like a CMS like Wix is that you're like, okay, well, I know that that's there and I know that it's correct. And then I think we want to think about like what kinds of issues they're having. So for instance, like one thing that happens a lot, and it's been happening a lot recently, a lot of people have been talking about it, is indexation. And people will have pages that just aren't getting indexed, and so they'll see that, you know, there's a lot of pages that are discovered but not indexed. So it's worth looking at which pages are being discovered, which pages are indexed, which pages are in the sitemap, which pages aren't in the sitemap, and diagnosing which things are there. And then I think it's also worth and so yeah, I'll go through that one and basically just try to address which issues we have in there. Other tools that I use are SEMrush, and Google Search Console and Bing as well. I tend not to rely on a single crawling tool to assess an issue.
Yeah.
Because they all crawl in different ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
you have different results. I usually also use like Sidebulb, sometimes Jet Octopus, depending on the size of the site. If the site is like millions of pages, then
right.
I will not necessarily set up 2 desktop crawlers.
Right. Because that'll take up all of the RAM.
Yeah. And I will have to like use a different computer. Yeah, definitely.
Right, precisely. And I think also deep crawl, or it's not deep crawl, Blumar now. Lumar's tool is fantastic. It has a lot of different elements on it that you don't see in other crawlers, and you can sort of configure it. Oh, the other thing that's really important to remember when you're looking at your crawl is how your crawl is configured. So sometimes, for instance, on SEMrush, they'll be like, oh, you're 100%, and then you look at the number of URLs and it's 100 URLs, and that's no good at all.
Or it's just homepage in Screaming Frog.
Right. And you're like, cool, well done. And it's also worth comparing how many URLs are in your sitemap and how many URLs show up in your crawl, because they're different things. And sometimes that's deliberate. Sometimes like you will only put in certain pages on your sitemap. Sometimes it's not deliberate, and it means that you've got an issue like somewhere. So that's worth looking at as well. But yeah, I think I generally run a crawl across a tool, and then find anything that's flagged, and find anything that's fixable, and then like getting into like the how you fix it, how to prioritize it, and how to explain it to whoever you're giving this information to. It might be that you're explaining it to devs. It might be that you're explaining it to clients. If you're explaining it to clients or project leads, then you're going to want to think about like making sure that it makes sense to them in like plain English, like, or plain language, so that they know this needs to be fixed because Google can't see your pages if you don't. Like,
for example,
For example.
Yeah. Like I've recently, not recently, I've started like, because when I get a new client, I'm like about to do an audit. I'm now sending the form, and in that form I have like this question: who is going to be implementing the changes? Because before that I didn't have that question, and and sometimes it was me implementing changes. So if I'm going to implement the changes, which I rarely do, then I will be careful with my recommendations. Yeah.
But I think also if you're going to implement the changes and you won't spend that much time explaining how to implement the changes, you can spend more time saying, this is why we should implement the change, and I'm going to do that now. Thank you.
Yeah.
And again, like, if you, and I think I tend to add, when I'm making recommendations, I will tend to add notes and add resources. So for instance, if there are notes where you can, like, if you're working on a CMS, for instance, that has documentation, then if let's say the recommendations are going to be implemented by an exec, right? So let's say you have a company, and like they're a company and they're using Wix, for instance, and you're like, okay, you need to update your alt tags for your images, for instance. Then with that, I'll say, okay, these are all of the alt tags that need to be fixed, and here is the documentation for how to fix that.
Yeah.
Here is the video for how to fix that, because I don't have time to explain to you every single thing. However, somebody already has, and so here you go. enjoy so that it makes sense. And I think someone, I know that you've got a lot of training resources and a lot of knowledge resources. So that means that you're able to refer people to that information as well, which I think is really great.
Yeah, and I also like add a lot of links to Google documentation because they have like perfect documentation for sitemaps, for robots text, and yeah, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
And for
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and for what they need. So, for instance, if you think about like schema markup, you can have valid schema markup that isn't those kind of schema markup that Google wants necessarily.
Yeah.
So you can be valid on validator.schema.org, and then you put it through rich results, and they're like, nah,
Yeah.
and you haven't done anything wrong, but it's not the way that Google wants it. So you have to like make sure that if you're
and then
trying to work on Google,
check what's in GSC if you are in those enhancements report, right?
yeah.
And I wanted to ask you what your audits, what does your audit look like? Like, what's the deliverable? Do you like deliver it in the form of a like Google Doc, Excel sheet? Like, I'm interested.
Okay, so the way I'll normally do an audit is I will have a sheet that includes like the things that I found. So the issue that I found, like a description of the issue that I found, what priority it is.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So if it's like you have no sitemap, that's high priority. Like you should fix that. And if it and then I'll put like the estimated time to fix it. So for instance, if it's like on Wix, for instance, we have like a way where you can sort of toggle on your indexation. So you can either make a page indexable, or you can make it not indexable with a click. So if I'm saying that if I look through the thing and I find out that this page isn't indexable or isn't indexable and it should be indexable, then I'll say this is high priority that you should fix this, and it will take you 3 minutes. So go in
or 3 seconds.
Yeah, 3 seconds. Go. Well, I don't know if you might have to find it or something, but like if you set aside 5 minutes, you can click this, and then that'll be done. And that's something that's high priority, high value, like high impact. That's the other thing, is that sometimes things can be
low
good.
impact. Yeah.
Right, but low impact for where they need to go. And I think it's important for people to understand the impact, because sometimes with some of the audit tools, they'll be like, oh, this is really, they're like, oh, you have duplicate content because your H1 and your title tag are pretty much the same. And I'm like, that to fix 100,000 of those would take you a long time. And that's not a big deal. It's probably like, it might have an impact, but like that's not like, I feel like that should be lower on the list than some of the other things. So I think that you want to think like high priority, high impact, medium priority, high impact, like this and also how long it will take. So how long it will take is something that I find that clients find really, 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 really useful, because then they can, set aside the time. And I think I always put a range. So so I'll say like, look, it'll take you 30 minutes to do this if you know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, it might take you like 2 hours. So just be aware this could take you 30 to 2 hours, depending on your like capabilities. Because like if you have to read all the documentation before you get going, like it's going to take you a minute. So I think I find that people find that really useful. So yeah, I'll normally do a sheet that has all of that. And the other thing that I tend to do for clients is I will export a lot of the elements of the crawl. So if I find that, for instance, they have like no H1s, right? So or on a section of the blog or a section of the website, I'm like, okay, you have no H1s, you should have H1s. I'll export all of the URLs that have that, and I'll put them onto a sheet. So I'll tend to make like tabs for each element. And I think the clients, again, find that useful because a lot of clients don't have crawling tools. Like a lot of SEOs have them, but a lot of clients don't have them. And so for them to try to pick out all of those things would be a right pain in the bum. So I'll tend to export all of those things for people and then show people how to do them. Then I'll do a deck that summarizes it. And I try to, and then I'll do a Loom video typically of the video. So, or of the implementation. So, or of like why we're talking about this, and I'll try to explain it. And I try to keep those under 10 minutes if I can. and so that people have that information, and try to make it so that it could be shared across the business. A lot of times, if you're giving an audit, then it might be shared with people who have nothing to do with the website, and people who aren't involved with it. So the person who owns the business might very well be seeing the audit, but they might not have anything to do with the implementation. So if you can put it in it, and so I'll do a deck that has like visuals and stuff and explains the business value of why I say this is high priority and high impact. And then we'll, like, the things that are lower priority, you can breeze through those. You can be like, right, I also noticed that this was this and this and this were an issue. You should probably get to those. You can get to those later on when you have time, but you should absolutely do these things now because that'll make a big difference for you.
Yeah, sure. And do you also take care of the implementation part?
Sometimes I do. It depends on what the client requests.
But you? So you do?
Sometimes I do. Yeah. I'm very hands-on. Like,
okay. Yeah. Sorry, I heard. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. So it depends. Like sometimes people will just ask for recommendations, and that's fine too. Sometimes people will ask for help implementing, and I'm happy to do that as well. So yeah, I love getting in and fixing stuff. I'm very satisfied when you have something broken and then you fix it. I'm like, yes. Like, or like when you're writing up some code and then you click it and it's valid, or like you run it through, rich results test and it comes back as like valid, and it's like, oh yeah, we fixed that. It's a good feeling, right?
Yeah. I love it too.
I know.
Okay, so do you have like maybe some common mistakes, some things you recommend avoiding when it comes to SEO auditing?
Do you know what? I would love to talk about Core Web Vitals. Like,
so
a lot of people with Core Web Vitals will audit it, and the way that people audit Core Web Vitals can sometimes be like, it drives me mad because sometimes people just look at Lighthouse and they don't, and they're like, oh, Lighthouse says this. I'm like, what does Google Search Console say?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it says that. I'm like, Lighthouse is a tool. It's a tool. It's useful. It's really great. But even Google says, get your own field data, right? So you have to get your field data and look at your field data. And I've definitely seen pages, I've seen clients who get themselves into a right tizzy over pages that nobody's looking at. And it's like, the way that Google's Core Web Vitals works is it goes by 75% of sessions. So they rate you based on 75% of user sessions. If no users are going to that page, or only like 12 users are going to that page a month or something like that, it's not going to contribute to much of your score. So don't worry about that page. Worry about your homepage, sure. Worry about, some of your top blogs or your top product pages or your product category. Like, worry about those things, but you don't have to worry about every single page. And also, I find a lot of people get really confused by the like the PageSpeed Insights report, where they'll only look at the bottom part and they don't look at the top where it says like passed or not passed.
Yeah, that's the score. Score is the only thing that matters.
That's all people look at, and it's like I've seen clients where they were yellow on the lab test, and they're green on Crocs, and they're green on the user experience because Core Web Vitals are throttled, so they're adjusted to be particularly like tricky to pass. So they say, we replicate a slow 4G experience, and we make the test harder because it's a lab test, but it doesn't account for some of the network configuration. So like, for instance, like on Wix, we have like 65% of US users passing Core Web Vitals across the US and mobile. I know, like, we're super proud of it. One of the reasons why we get those is because of some of the network infrastructure that we have. So we have cloud infrastructure where we're based in, where if you Google, or if you go log on to a Wix website from New York, you will get served the content from a server in New York. If you log onto a Wix website in Tokyo, you will get served the same Wix website. You'll get to serve the content from Tokyo. So it's edge cloud stuff. We also have like extended caching. We have like a few other things, but like those things are really tricky to test in a lab test, for instance. But we see that in real life that loads of people are having some really great experiences. So that's something that I find really, really, really interesting. The other thing that is just to shout out something is that we have is also like a lot of people don't if you have low traffic volume, you don't actually have access to some of the Google tools. So you have to rely on Lighthouse. which can also be really tricky. But again, Google says like you should get your own field data. If I can just like shout out something that we're super proud of
Sure.
from the team, is that we have something called the site speed dashboard that gives every Wix user, with pretty much like, you can have a very small amount of traffic, and you can get your actual field data, not just from Google, but also from other search engines as well. And it's actually based on like actual user experience, and it gives you information about which pages and which ones are getting, best metrics. And I think that's a super useful tool for giving like actual actionable tools for reporting and for auditing core web vitals, and when you're trying to find like what to fix in those spaces.
Yeah, so tell me more about Wix. Like, let's say I have just set up a new website using Wix. Like, what are the SEO things I can optimize? How Wix stands when it comes to SEO? Walk me
So
through, because I know you have changed enormously, like over the last, I don't know, 2-3 years.
yeah, so and even in the time that I joined, so I joined in February, and like one of the things that I was really floored by when I joined the squad was that I was expecting Wix to be like a CMS, but there's so much to it. There's a lot built into the platform, which I think is really great. And from an SEO point of view, like I shared the other day, there's all these different tools. You can create a duplicate site with one click. You can create a
Oh,
staging. Yeah.
I
You can
didn't
do,
know
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, and you can do A/B tests. You can do like rollout. So like, let's say you added a new tool or like a new element to your website. You can make a duplicate site, and then you can stage your rollout, and you can also see
Oh.
the information about whether or not it worked, and you can roll it back if you want as well, which is like awesome.
Mm.
We also have Velo, which is a JavaScript, it's a Node.js JavaScript tool, and basically it's called dev mode, and you can write code into your Wix website. You can use it to do. I use it for schema stuff. You can also like update
Oh.
canonicals and things, and yeah, it's really cool. The other thing that's great about it, there's a couple of things that I really would like about it. One is it checks your syntax while you're typing. So
Oh.
if you miss a comp, I know,
Yeah, if you
I
miss
know,
that, yeah.
right? So if you've got like a curly brace, like some of your curly braces out of sync, or you missed a you missed a comma or
Semicolon. Yeah.
whatever, it's like no, you didn't do it right, and it won't let you submit it until you do, which is amazing. The other thing is that like while you're typing out your stuff, it'll give you your variables. It also highlights as you go. So for instance, if you're like, let shoes equal this and this and this, if you haven't put shoes into your code lower on as an actual variable, then it won't highlight, and it'll tell you that you
Oh.
haven't put in this variable. So it's amazing. I love it. I'm like a JavaScript newbie, but like I absolutely love it, and I think it's super great. The other thing it does, my last is it has like a prettify thing, so you can click it and it'll make your code all pretty.
Oh, that's nice.
I love it. And then also we also have like our whole suite of like Wix SEO like tools. So we have like a SEMrush integration where you can like connect your keywords. We have people ask a lot, is there a Wix SEO plugin, or are there SEO
Mhm.
plugins for Wix? But like we kind of the Wix SEO framework does a lot of what a lot of other things you have to pay for plugins to do. So when you get a Wix website, it includes your domain name, your hosting, which is like top tier, like amazing hosting.
Uh-huh.
And also you get your you get all the Wix SEO stuff included as well. We have a Google Search Console integration. So when you go to set up your SEO stuff, they have a checklist for your first page, for your homepage, and then if you get to the end of the checklist, it says, would you like to connect to Google Search Console? You click one click and it sets up your Google Search Console property
Oh.
for you. It also submits your homepage for indexing. And I tested this on my own website because I was like, this is nonsense. This isn't gonna work. And I
And
and I
it
had this.
worked.
It works. So I tested it, and I was like, and I tested my website, and it wasn't on Google. I used the search operator, and it was like, no. And then the next day I tested it. And because I'd done the internal linking, because it only promises your homepage, but because I did the internal linking from my homepage, it indexed like a third of my site, within
Oh,
within a day. And like you and I both know that sometimes you can sit around waiting and
yeah.
waiting
Yeah.
to show on Google, and it did that. And we basically have so there's like in the SEO comms thing, there's me and there's Morty Oberstein and there's George Wynn, but we are like a tip of the iceberg. There are like 100 people in the Slack channel for Wix
Oh,
SEO. Yeah, then they're all super hyped. So whenever we have a new rollout, like I think we had we have a new panel where you can sort of edit lots of SEO things in one place. It's called the Edit by Page feature. And we roll that out, and everyone's like, "Whoa!" Like fire emojis and like,
uh-huh.
"Yay!" And whenever we roll out a new thing, it's just like this. There's just a lot of energy behind it, and everybody really loves it. So I think I think the thing that really drives us is just keeping making it better. No CMS is perfect, but like that's why SEOs do what we do.
True.
Like,
Yeah.
um, but like we really love like seeing the growth and just making things more awesome for Wix users and for the wider SEO space. So I think you know we recently launched the SEMrush integration, and we launched our Google Search Console integration, and we were the first CMS to include a Google Search Console URL inspection API in the CMS. And loads of people are like, "Oh,
Oh,
is that going to be on some other ones or whatever?" And I'm like, not yet, but like we should be pushing we should be pushing for like better integrations. Like that's something that's really good. And like we have every Wix website comes with an SSL that's part of the you know the fee or whatever, and
mm-hmm.
that's maintained, and you don't have to worry about those
Oh,
times when like, oh, is the SSL expired? Oh, nobody remembers who bought it, and like
yeah.
those sorts of things. You
Oh,
don't have to worry about that because it's already included. um and yeah, I think there was Morty posted something that was like, oh, how do you secure a Wix website? He was like, buy a Wix website.
yeah.
And then
And
like,
yeah. And talking about security, so I guess it is not that easy to hack a Wix website as it is, for example, to hack a WordPress site.
I mean, like we don't we have a team of security experts who test and test and test and test and constantly test. And it's my understanding that we have a team that go around it, like we have like people who we ask to try and hack us, to try to do the thing.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not
Okay.
tempting anyone to do that. Please, like, leave us alone. But it's something that we actively work at. And we have, you know, we have our SSL. I think if working in technical SEO, I'm sure you know that like not every SSL is as good as it says it is. Like lots of people
Yeah.
are like, oh, we have an SSL, we're secure. And I'm like, and then you look at the chain, and the chain is a hot mess, and you're like,
Yeah.
what is this and what is that? And that doesn't even work. And this isn't even like, and this isn't like TLS, like whatever. And so
Mm-hmm.
what we find is that you know there's every Wix website is on an HTTPS. All of our links are sort of for that, so you don't end up with like HTTP links from your other things. And we have security that is incredibly robust, and that we have a whole team of like world class security folks working on the security for the entire network. I think that's the other thing that I think is great about my team, is that it allows people, like some of the people who are working on like the infrastructure for Wix's networks, for like the cloud infrastructure. So for instance, Wix engineering, one of the proudest moments, I talk about this a lot, but I just love it so much. It's at the beginning of the year, Amazon had an outage, and like a bunch of websites went down. But Wix's cloud infrastructure is built on multiple stacks. So
Uh-huh.
when the Amazon server went down, they just moved it to Cloudflare,
Oh,
or they moved it to
okay.
Google Cloud, and they just moved it to the other one. So Wix users didn't even notice. So we have
Oh,
like 99.98% uptime, and it's like something that the team is so proud of, and they're really proud of, although they're trying to get it to 99.9%
uh-huh.
uptime, 99.99%
Yeah.
uptime. So I think that the best thing about that is I feel like we have you know over 200 million users, and we're able to provide, because of that, we're able to provide that level of expertise for lots of people at any, like, you know, at any price point. You know, we have multiple price points for people, and you know, people trying to do all of that themselves with some other setups or whatever, it's trickier. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
trickier. Whereas like, we have for instance, we have a lot of default structured data markup that's included on Wix
Yeah,
websites.
that's
So
what I
like
wanted to ask. How do I
yeah,
add schema to?
yeah, so you can do like, so there's like a default schema markup, for instance, for like blog posts, right? And it's like a
Mm-hmm.
standard one, and it's got, to pull out your title, your top image, and it'll pull out, loads of different elements. But you can also add to it. So you can either modify the existing schema markup using
Uh-huh.
some built-in variables, or you can write your own, either within the Wix SEO, like not plugin, but I don't know, window, I guess I would say,
Uh-huh.
the Wix SEO tool. Or if you even want to get more into it, you can use Velo, and you can use and the Velo schema markup is really easy. We have a Wix SEO API that
Uh-huh.
helps you to use variables from Wix SEO, so you can pull those things into the Velo dev mode, and then you can just go crazy, like write whatever you like.
Oh, okay.
and stuff.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done this in for a few different things, and it's been a lot of fun because I just love schema markup.
Okay. Yeah. And you have like recently started the Wix Learning Hub, and I'm going to be one of the contributors to that as well, which I'm very
Yay!
happy about.
I'm so happy.
And you also launched the Wix podcast, right?
We do. We have a Wix podcast. It's called SERPs Up, and it is me and Morty Oberstein talking
Uh-huh.
about all things search. And we have weekly features, and we have guests who show up and give their SEO magic
Yeah.
every week. So it comes out every Wednesday. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's a lot of fun to sort of get into sort of search discussions and talk about SEO.
Yeah, sure. And how big is that team of like how many people do work at Wix?
Oh, the whole
Like,
company?
yeah.
Oh, so I mean, it's a big squad. The squad is big. I think there's like something like over 5,000, I think, last time I checked.
Oh,
Yeah, we're a big
wow.
company. We do a lot of stuff. So
Oh,
yeah, and we like, and I think people are really proud of the work that we do. And really, we just really want to do the best for our users. Really, I was talking to someone in a like Wix user forum, a Wix partners forum, and they were like, "Oh, your comms. This isn't your problem." Somebody said, and I was like, "It's we all care. I know, like we all care, and we all work across different spaces. So it's all really important for us to make sure that Wix works for all our users, and that we're a positive space on the web. I think like the Core Web Vitals conversation, for instance, Wix improved their performance by tenfold
wow.
over the course of like a year, and that really started driving the conversation around Core Web Vitals and the responsibilities that CMSs have for their users and for the web.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I sometimes people say, "Oh, we're faster." I'm like, it's better for everyone that everyone's fast. Like,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Better
um,
for the earth.
yeah, it's better for the earth. It's better for nobody wants to sit around waiting for a website to load. So we work really hard to make the web fast, make the web a great experience for our users and for the web at large.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Okay, so now I have maybe a more personal question. What does your day look like? Like, how many hours per day, per week do you work? What do you do? Like, tell me everything.
Oh gosh. Okay. It varies a lot. So I spend a lot of time working with my team around thinking about how we can best help users to understand how to make the most of Wix, and also how we can best help users to understand and best help drive positive conversations around SEO. So I think one of the things we do with the hub is we try to make sure that we are getting content that's expert led, that's led by expertise, rather than rather than, and it's not to say that like, writing for keywords isn't a good thing. It totally is. It's all good. And like sometimes there's a reason why there's those keywords, right? People are asking, they want something, they want to know something. And if you find a gap and you can fill that gap, that's fantastic. We also lean into a bit of expertise. So that's something that we really like to be able to do. And that's something that we think is really, really important. And so I get to contribute to conversations around that. I have a small boy, so I have to do the school run every day.
Oh, okay.
So I'll go and do the school run, and then I'll come back and jump on a call with, I'll jump on a podcast, or I'll jump on a call with I don't know, someone in a different place. I do work with, and I work with a lot of external teams. So
And where are you based? In the UK?
I'm based in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so I work with I'll work with people like SEMrush on different projects, and you're doing Majestic as well, the SEO in 2023.
Yeah.
So we'll do a lot of things like that. And then I'll probably do some writing. I do videos, so making content around technical SEO.
But like, do you have your own channel or on Wix? Do you mean on Wix?
I do stuff on Wix, and I do stuff with partners, and I have a few, and I have my own website as well. I tend to do more on Wix at the moment. But yeah, I have my own website as well. It's a Wix website. Thanks.
Oh, I have to like link it in the description. I will. Yeah.
Thank you.
And how do you stay up to date with what's going on in SEO? What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, so we discuss a lot. I'm on Twitter a lot, so I tend to get a lot of my information from Twitter. There's some fantastic SEO newsletters. You have your own fantastic SEO newsletter.
Oh, thanks.
And I think that there's some fantastic SEO newsletters, and I get a lot of news that way, and I think a lot of people do. And also I, as a member of the Women in Tech SEO Slack group, there's a lot of good information there, and I think I find it really useful. So I found something the other day that was fairly new. It was a January thing, I think, a fairly new meta tag for iframes. It was like an iframe that said, do you know the one I'm talking about? Like index,
I think I know.
Index if embedded. And I found that in the Women in Tech SEO and Tech SEO Slack group. I was like, oh, iframe optimization, and I searched it and I found it, and it's really, really interesting. So I think that that Slack channel is a great opportunity to find information about like new things that are happening, new developments in tech, new questions that people have as well. And I think that one of the things that's great about that community is there are literally some of the best SEOs in the world in that community who are women, but who are some of the best SEOs in the world. And I think that it's amazing to be a part of that kind of community. And it's good.
Sure. And are you moving to Mastodon?
I signed up on a Mastodon account, and I think I've done a few toots.
What are they called?
Toots.
Toots. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a tweet, a toot. Yeah. So I signed up on it, and Simon Cox and J.R. Oakes, I think, have been looking after that channel, and I'm grateful to them for doing that. So I think I need to do a bit more on it. But I have set myself up.
Yeah, the same with me. I still I don't want to add another social platform to manage, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, what else can I ask you? So what do you think is the area of SEO that is like that we should be focusing on more and we aren't focusing on enough?
So at the beginning of the year, I did an article on visuals, or I did an article on SEO, like technical SEO trends for Moz, and in that I had a section on visual search, and I showed a picture of my teapot from my house, and how when I put the teapot sideways, it said one, the tags thought it was one thing, and when I put it, head on, the tag said it was another thing. And in that, and I got a really big response from that. And since then I started talking about visual search quite a lot. across the year, and that I thought more people would start talking about visual search after that. But there's still not that much around visual search, which I think is really interesting, because Google keeps adding more and more elements for like more searchable elements. They now added they've added like another tab within Chrome, where you can sort of search Google Lens and then it pops out with a sidebar of visual searches within Chrome. And I've started seeing, for instance, I've started seeing content that was referenced in visual search or referenced in images, seeing some impact from visual search as well. I think one of the things that SEOs are having a little bit of trouble with is like how to measure it. And, if we can't measure it, it's very difficult. But one of the things I think is that sometimes people are looking in the wrong places. So I think a lot of people are expecting traffic from Google Lens to be in organic, but actually I've only ever seen it in referral, which is really interesting. Yeah. And so I've seen a few people who've seen traffic from that. So I'm hoping to see more people talk about visual search. And I think that as we get more tools for understanding it, I think we'll get better. But yeah, I think that's something that I think people should be thinking about. It's something that Google are thinking about a lot. Yeah. And Google have talked about it at every one of their major search events in the last sort of like 1.5, 2 years. And I think that if we and Google at their last big event, Google I/O, they talked loads about images, and they were saying, "Oh, we're making the search more visual," and welcome. They literally said, the CEO literally said, "Welcome to the age of visual search." Yeah, we are now in the age of visual search, and I feel like SEOs could do with leaning into that a little bit more. So I'd be interested to see how much that that increases going forward. And I know there's a few other SEOs who are looking at this space, but I think at the moment it's kind of like fingers crossed. But in my experience, I think that there's opportunities, and I think that there are a few elements that you can think about with when you're selecting the images on your website, and when you're selecting when you're thinking about how users are searching for content that can help you to perform with visual search going forward. I also think that a lot of people don't realize that which elements are searchable within visual search, and people don't realize that you can actually have an influence on the kinds of images that users are taking. And yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, and I think it's the kind of thing where if you have schema markup on a page, and you've really gone into the schema, and you've really done that a lot, and there isn't a rich result for it, and then Google makes a rich result later, and you're like, I already have it, I already did it. That's how I feel about visual search right now. I feel like if you're thinking about the optimizations now, then I feel like as it picks up and as it gets more traction, I think it's something that will increase your SEO activity.
Yeah, okay. Great tip, great insight. So now it's time for you to give a shout out to someone in the SEO industry. So who should we be following?
Who should we be following in the SEO industry? I think I would like to shout out Chima Memje, who is a content writer, and who is the leader of the Federation. What is it? It's the Freelancers Coalition for Developing Countries, and she's also speaking at Women in Tech SEO in February, I believe it is. And yeah, she's great. She's so clever. She's so considerate, or she's so passionate about what she does, and I think that she's a great follow because she shares some really great tips. She's also the best thing on LinkedIn.
Oh, I have to follow her because it's I'm not following her, and I don't know why.
Yes, please do. She's fantastic. And she's super smart, and she shares some great threads and some great information. And she's also somebody who's really active in the SEO community. So I can follow her. She's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. Okay, so where can people find you?
People can find me. Yes, they can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Crystal on the web. And you can also find me on the Wix SEO Hub. So we do monthly webinars, and I am one of the hosts of the monthly webinars. We have one coming up, and I'm not sure when this is going to go out, but we have one in December that's going to be talking about. Oh, that's okay. There's one in December that's happened that's talking about all of the different Wix SEO things that we've built and shipped and
Oh,
this year. So that's happening on the second Tuesday of December, and will be available on YouTube
after.
after that.
So
Yeah, so that's good. And so I host a monthly webinar there. I also host a weekly podcast. I also write articles on the hub. So there's a lot of good stuff there.
yeah.
So and yeah, I go check out Twitter, check out the Wix SEO hub. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I also occasionally pop up on the Wix TikTok channel, so you
Oh,
can see me there as well.
okay. Yeah, a lot of ways to follow you.
Yes.
Okay, okay, Crystal. So thank you very much for spending this hour with me. I learned a ton, and I think the audience learned a ton too. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.